the big news, the college football 12-team playoff is now going to start in 2024. There was a thought that they had a contract in place that it was going to move to 2026 where they would have this, but they've decided to move this up. And as I've said before, it's like you're sitting on a lottery ticket. Why not try to cash the ticket sooner? They finally got the Rose Bowl to cave in. Everybody's on board, and we will have a 12-team playoff starting at 2024. Now, if I use the 2024 format this year, get ready for what would be happening. This is today. Now, we don't know what's going to happen this weekend, but you would get Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC, Clemson, Tulane.
Tulane.
If you win your conference championship, you are automatically in the 12-team playoff.
Right. According to the language as of now, the 6 highest-ranked conference champions, as determined by College Football Committee, will receive automatic bids. Tulane, ranked 18th, if they won this weekend against UCF, would be the highest-ranked outside the Power 5.
They would get an automatic first-round bye, wouldn't they?
No,
the top 4 get buys?
The 4 highest-ranked conference championships receive buys. But, for example, if Purdue happened to beat Michigan this weekend, Purdue is in. Now, they wouldn't get a bye, but Purdue would steal the conference.
But Tulane would host a playoff game.
Correct, at home. So the first round games will be played at home stadiums.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a bye, you would host a playoff game, which is great.
The next 6, based on current rankings, would be Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, Penn State, Kansas State, and Utah. That's as of today. We don't know what's going to happen this weekend, but just letting you know, you think that you're going to have the powerhouses in there, and then Tulane's going to be in there. Yes, Seton.
It's interesting, too, because, say Penn State is a team that hasn't gotten really any headlines.
No.
Nobody's been talking about them all year, but they would be in.
Yeah. That's the 12-team playoff format as of today that we're going to use in 2024. Yes, Paul.
Some people say it would make the regular season less interesting, but imagine last weekend when LSU loses that game that they should have won, that would have taken them out of the playoffs. When Oregon loses to Oregon State, if Oregon had won that game last week, they're probably going to be that next group of 6 in. So there'd be a lot more relevant November games. Maybe not the first 5 or 6 teams ranked, but like that next 15 to 20 teams, those games will mean a lot more.
They have made these arguments down through the years. And the format that they're using now, I can go back to, I think, 2011, maybe 2012, and I gave you basically this format, that this is how everybody could benefit here. That we talked about the bowl games, and you could rotate the bowl games, and then 1 year the Rose Bowl host, or 1 year the Orange Bowl will host a national title game, or you have somebody separate hosting a national title game. But you have 12 teams. You have your conference winners getting automatic bids in here. Then you take the next highest ranked teams after that. They've been sitting on this for a while, but the outlier, the holdout, was the Rose Bowl, that they didn't want to give up the Rose Bowl and making sure that they were still able to play that game on New Year's Day. They wanted New Year's Day, same time. And the Rose Bowl finally caved in, and now college football will have its playoff coming up in 2024. Yes, Paul.
It really will be interesting to see how the conference championship weekends, if they stay as intact. Because, let's say Georgia LSU this weekend. Somehow Georgia slips up and loses to LSU. Now, Georgia's still in the playoff picture, but they would lose their first-round bye. They would have lost the conference. They'd still be in the playoffs, but now that game would mean a lot more for Georgia and be a lot more necessary.
I think these games, there are going to be more games that mean more. They're more important than what people initially said about this. That now all of a sudden I got a chance to get into the playoffs, and maybe I get a first-round bye. I think there's added importance to the regular season. I know that this was one of the big deterrents, that they didn't want to expand it because then you're going to have games that were meaningless. Well, there's a lot of games that are meaningless. Now I have more meaningful games. Yeah, Seton.
It feels like with this system, there's more of an ability to win your way in rather than just lose your way out, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Whereas right now you just
fair.
have teams, there's 4 teams holding on. It's like you better not lose or you're out. Whereas this other way, now there's ways that you could win yourself back into it.
Yeah, Paul.
Here's another benefit. College players over the past 10 years, starting with Fournette and McCaffrey, would tap out of the Sun Bowl or whatever.
Yeah.
Now, let's say Drake May was the number one pick of the draft coming up in a year or so, and he's at North Carolina, and they're out of the playoff picture. Well, under this new format, they're not out of the playoff picture. Let's say North Carolina took care of Clemson this weekend. Drake May and North Carolina are now in the playoffs. So instead of being in the Blue Bonnet Bowl where it's not relevant, and him saying, all right, I'm tapping out and going to Arizona, he'll play in a game. You get to see star players play longer.
Yes, Todd.
And then even if you're in the playoffs, then there's the whole, if we would have won, we would have had a home game, but we lost, now it's a road game. There's like different layers to how important a game can be, even if you're already in the playoffs.
And another problem that I heard down through the years was, we want to make sure that we keep the integrity of the bowl games, whatever that means, the pageantry, whatever that means. And I always thought, well, you can now make those games more important. Let's say the Peach Bowl is not in the rotation of the the four for the national title game, but those teams in that bowl game, the winner then advances. So now there is added importance to some of these bowl games, that now you're going to be watching these bowl games because they do mean something. They mean more.